He swore I'd never touch his money, but when the judge opened my letter, the courtroom exploded in shock, and he realized too late he had underestimated me. The courtroom air was thick with tension. Whispers floated like shadows, reporters' pens scratched furiously, and cameras flashed intermittently, capturing the unraveling of a man who once seemed untouchable. Nathaniel Cross, the man who had once been her lover, her partner, her so-called confidant, now looked like a defeated actor whose final performance had crumbled in front of an unforgiving audience. Thalira Quinn, meanwhile, was calm. Every heartbeat was precise, every breath deliberate. The fire that had been smoldering inside her since the first betrayal 2 years ago now burned openly, fueling her resolve. She remembered the first time she realized the depth of Nathaniel's deception. It had been a crisp autumn morning, the sunlight streaming through the office windows of Quinn Tech Solutions. Papers scattered across her desk hinted at financial inconsistencies she could no longer ignore. When she confronted him, Nathaniel's response had been charm masking cruelty, a smile that hid contempt. "You'll never win against me, Thalira," he had said, voice smooth and confident. "You're brilliant, yes, but you lack the power, the connections, the leverage. This company is mine, and so is your fate." Her hands had clenched, and a cold determination had settled over her like a mantle. She had vowed then that she would not only survive his betrayal but make him pay for it, not with violence, but with the one thing he valued more than her love, his illusion of control. What followed was a period of meticulous planning. Thalira transformed from a naive partner into a cunning strategist. She poured herself into legal research, financial audits, and investigative work, often late into the night. Each step was calculated, each piece of evidence carefully documented. Kai Rowan, her quiet, sharp-eyed legal researcher, had been instrumental. He had joined the team months earlier, seemingly a casual addition, but his intellect, patience, and unwavering support became her anchor. He helped her catalog every shady transaction, every forgery, every whisper of deception Nathaniel had tried to hide. Together, they built a fortress of proof, one that Nathaniel could neither bribe, charm, nor intimidate his way out of. It wasn't just revenge, it was justice. And yet, even as she collected evidence, there were moments of weakness. Thalira often found herself staring at old photographs of her and Nathaniel, smiling, in love, oblivious to the darkness that would soon consume their lives. The memories were bittersweet, mingling anger with lingering traces of love. Kai noticed the subtle shifts in her demeanor. "You can't undo the past," he said one night as they pored over financial records. "But you can control the outcome. That's all that matters now." Thalira looked up at him, seeing not just a colleague but a steady presence, a safe harbor in the storm. "I know," she whispered, "and I won't fail." Now, as the judge examined her letter, Thalira felt the culmination of 2 years of preparation. She watched Nathaniel squirm, the arrogance he had once wielded as a weapon crumbling under the weight of his own lies. The judge cleared her throat. "This letter, along with accompanying audio evidence, will be admitted as part of the official record." Her eyes met Nathaniel's, and for the first time, she saw fear in his gaze. "You can't do this." Nathaniel snapped, attempting to regain control. "This is fabricated. You tricked me." Thalira remained silent, her gaze unwavering. The courtroom seemed to lean in, waiting, sensing the impending collapse of a man who had believed himself untouchable. The judge lifted her voice. "Mr. Cross, your attempts at intimidation will not be tolerated. You will have your opportunity to respond, but any further outburst will be noted for contempt of court." Nathaniel sank back into his chair, fury mixing with disbelief. He was losing, and he knew it. Every loophole he had counted on, every connection he had believed would protect him, was evaporating before his eyes. Thalira's mind drifted to the night she had captured Nathaniel's confession. It had been a gala for charity, opulent, dazzling, full of people who would never know the truth. Nathaniel, drunk on power and entitlement, had spoken freely, unaware of the hidden recorder in her purse. "I've got everything under control," he had said confidently to a group of executives. No one will ever touch my assets, my company, not her. Certainly not her. Thalira's fingers had tightened around the recorder. Every word, every boast, every careless admission was now a weapon. And she had waited, patiently, until the perfect moment to strike. Kai had been there, watching her, understanding the gravity of what they were about to unleash. He had whispered, "This is it. Your victory is near, but you must stay calm. Every move counts." Back in the courtroom, the judge's laughter broke the tension, a sound so unexpected it echoed in the chamber. Nathaniel froze. The man who had believed himself untouchable now faced the harsh reality. He was vulnerable. The judge's laughter was not mockery. It was disbelief at the thoroughness, the precision, and the audacity of Thalira's plan. The room was electric. Spectators leaned forward, whispers spreading like wildfire. Cameras flashed. Nathaniel's lawyer scrambled, attempting to salvage some shred of credibility. But it was too late. The letter, the recordings, the detailed financial evidence, all of it was undeniable. Thalira allowed herself a small smile. She didn't need to gloat. The evidence was enough. Nathaniel's downfall was not about spectacle, it was about truth. Every detail had been planned. The letter, the audio, the notarization, and the careful presentation in court. Nathaniel had believed he was untouchable, but he had underestimated her. He had underestimated the depth of her intelligence, the strength of her resolve, and the precision of her execution. And now, as the judge continued reviewing the evidence, Nathaniel's face fell. He was no longer a man in control. He was exposed, stripped of power, and utterly powerless. Thalira felt a wave of satisfaction, not the satisfaction of cruelty, but of justice. Every sleepless night, every moment of fear, every pang of heartbreak had led to this. She had reclaimed what was hers, not just her financial stake, but her dignity, her voice, and her agency. Kai watched her from the side, pride and admiration in his eyes. Thalira caught his gaze and felt an unspoken connection, a shared triumph. He had been her anchor, her partner in this fight, and the first person who truly understood the weight of what she had endured. As the courtroom began to settle, Thalira felt a mixture of relief and exhaustion. The first battle had been won, but the war was far from over. Nathaniel would not go quietly. He was the kind of man who would scheme, manipulate, and attempt to reclaim what he had lost. Yet for the first time in 2 years, Thalira felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: control. She had navigated the labyrinth of betrayal and deceit, and she had emerged victorious. The fire inside her had not consumed her. It had forged her into someone unstoppable. Kai approached her as the courtroom began to empty. "You did it," he said softly, his hand brushing against hers. "You've set things right." Thalira smiled, a mixture of gratitude and quiet triumph. "This is just the beginning," she replied. "There's more to do, but it feels good to finally take the first step." As she gathered her things and left the courtroom with Kai by her side, Thalira felt the weight of 2 years lift slightly. The victory was sweet, but it was also a reminder. Revenge was not just about retribution. It was about reclaiming power, self-respect, and the right to define one's own destiny. Nathaniel's empire was shaken, his arrogance broken, and for the first time, Thalira saw the man who had once controlled her life as vulnerable, flawed, and utterly human. And that realization was more satisfying than any financial gain or legal victory. The chill of the December morning greeted them as they stepped outside, the cold air a sharp contrast to the storm of emotions within. Kai's hand brushed against hers, a silent promise of support and something more, something tender amidst the chaos. Thalira Quinn walked forward, her head held high, her heart steady, knowing that this was only the first act of a story that would end on her terms. And somewhere deep inside, she felt the stirrings of something new: trust, hope, and the faint glow of love rekindled. The fight was far from over. The story of revenge, justice, and redemption had only just begun. The courtroom was quiet now, but the echoes of yesterday's revelations still lingered. Nathaniel Cross had left the chambers with his lawyers, his face pale and drawn, a man stripped of arrogance, forced to confront his crimes. For the first time, Thalira Quinn saw him not as the man who had once betrayed her, but as a fragile, desperate human, teetering on the edge of ruin. Yet, victory never comes without consequences. Thalira had reclaimed her company, her dignity, and justice, but the shadows of betrayal were not so easily erased. There were lingering whispers from the media, curious investors, and colleagues who had once doubted her. Every step forward required careful strategy, every move a calculated dance between exposing her adversary and protecting herself. Kai stayed close, a steady presence. He had been her confidant, her partner, and her anchor throughout the legal storm. The connection between them had deepened over the past months, evolving from admiration to an undeniable, simmering bond. His eyes, calm and unwavering, met hers as they walked through the crisp morning air. "You did it," he whispered, his voice low but steady. "But the hardest part isn't over yet." Thalira nodded, feeling the weight of the journey ahead. Nathaniel was not done. People like him rarely accepted defeat quietly. His next move would be desperate and dangerous. Thalira returned to her office at Quintech Solutions, a sleek, modern space that now felt like a reclaimed sanctuary. She reviewed the financial reports and legal documents one last time, ensuring every detail was airtight. The company's investors were demanding briefings, and she was prepared to face them head-on. Then came the first unexpected message, an anonymous email titled, "He's planning something." Her pulse quickened. The message contained a single line. "He won't go down without dragging everyone else with him. Watch your back." Thalira felt a cold shiver. Nathaniel was desperate, and desperation made men reckless. She turned to Kai, who had been reviewing security protocols. "Do you think this is a threat?" she asked. Kai's jaw tightened. "It's more than a threat. It's a promise. He's going to try something, and we need to anticipate it before it happens." The stakes had escalated. Revenge had started in the courtroom, but it would end outside, in the shadows, in the world Nathaniel thought he controlled. Thalira's mind wandered to the 2 years of betrayal, manipulation, and heartbreak. She remembered Nathaniel's smug confidence, the way he had whispered, "You'll never touch my money again." Those words had fueled her determination, had driven her to transform herself into someone he could not outwit. But alongside that cold determination, she felt a flutter whenever Kai's presence was near. Unlike Nathaniel, Kai didn't seek to control her. He respected her strength, celebrated her intellect, and, most importantly, saw the woman behind the calculated exterior. One late evening, as she reviewed the company's latest contracts, Kai leaned over her shoulder. His closeness sent an unexpected warmth through her, and for a moment, the weight of revenge lifted slightly. "You're incredible," he whispered. "Do you know that? You've faced betrayal, lies, and manipulation, and yet, here you are, unbroken." Thalira looked at him, her eyes softening. "I couldn't have done it without you," she said, her voice barely audible. "You kept me grounded when I almost lost myself." Kai's hand brushed hers, a spark igniting between them. She felt a thrill, a reminder that even amidst revenge and justice, love could still flourish. As the night fell, Nathaniel was plotting. He had retreated to his private office, surrounded by legal documents, surveillance footage, and private investigators. He was furious, not just at losing the company, but at the humiliation. The courtroom revelations had destroyed his image, his credibility, and, most importantly, his sense of control. He plotted a desperate scheme, a hostile takeover attempt, leveraging obscure legal loopholes and alliances with corrupt board members. He didn't yet know that Thalira had anticipated every move, creating countermeasures that would make every attempt fail spectacularly. 2 days later, Nathaniel appeared unannounced at Quintech's headquarters. Security immediately recognized him, but his presence sent a ripple of unease through the office. He strode toward Thalira's office, a smug, dangerous smile on his face. "I see you're still enjoying your little victory," he said, stepping inside without waiting for permission. "But it won't last long." You can't keep me out forever. Thalira stood, composed, her expression cold. I'm not afraid of you, Nathaniel. You lost your advantage the moment you betrayed me. Nathaniel laughed, a harsh, brittle sound. You think you've won? This is just the beginning. I'll destroy you and everyone you care about. At that moment, Kai stepped beside Thalira, protective and resolute. Not today, he said firmly, and not ever. Nathaniel's eyes flicked to him, and for the first time, the arrogance faltered. He realized that Thalira was no longer alone. He had underestimated the depth of her support, the intelligence, and the courage standing beside her. Thalira calmly reached into her desk drawer and pulled out a USB drive. She handed it to the security head. Make sure this goes straight to the board and the authorities, she said. Everything Nathaniel has tried to hide for years is documented here. The evidence included financial fraud, embezzlement, and legal manipulation, a mountain of proof that even the most cunning lawyer couldn't argue against. Nathaniel's face drained of color. You can't, he started, but Thalira cut him off. This is the end of your control over Quintech, she said softly, but with unwavering conviction. And it's also the end of you hurting anyone else with your lies. With Nathaniel's schemes thwarted, the authorities involved, and the company secure, Thalira finally allowed herself to breathe. The long, arduous journey of revenge had ended. But it hadn't been cold or empty. It had been justice, carefully executed, and necessary. Kai approached her, his eyes warm. You did it, he said, a smile tugging at his lips. You set everything right. Thalira smiled back. We did it, she corrected. The words we felt were powerful, inclusive, and true. Kai reached for her hand, and this time, there was no fear, no hesitation, just connection. Now, he said softly, it's time to think about the future. Together. Her heart, once consumed by betrayal and rage, now felt lighter. She had won her battle, reclaimed her life, and discovered a love that was real, respectful, and unwavering. Nathaniel was arrested shortly after the final evidence was submitted. His empire crumbled, his reputation destroyed, and his attempts at revenge completely neutralized. The world saw him for what he truly was, a man consumed by greed and arrogance, undone by the very person he had underestimated. Thalira Quinn emerged not just victorious, but transformed. She was stronger, wiser, and more self-assured. Quintech Solutions thrived under her leadership, innovative projects launched, and investors regained confidence in the company's ethical and strategic direction. Kai remained by her side, not as a savior, but as a partner, equal in strength and loyalty. Together, they celebrated their triumph, not only over Nathaniel but over the fear, betrayal, and doubt that had once threatened to define Thalira's life. And in the quiet moments, when the world seemed still, Thalira allowed herself a smile, knowing the most important victory of all had been reclaiming herself and discovering love that didn't hurt. Thalira Quinn had walked through fire, survived betrayal, outwitted a dangerous adversary, and emerged victorious. The story of revenge, justice, and love had reached its thrilling conclusion. The courtroom drama, the suspenseful schemes, and the romantic tension culminated in a story that was not only suspenseful and engaging but deeply satisfying.